My name is Dushan Zaric, and welcome to the 4 a.m. Chicken Soup Podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to yet another awesome episode of 4 a.m. Chicken Soup. I promise you that this one is going to be something extra fun and extra special. I have two really dear friends and amazing people that I'm super happy to share with you all. So please join me in welcoming. She is the Don Fulano brand ambassador, one of my favorite tequilas. Please welcome Miss Christina Helmer. She's also a bartender and an all-around super cool person. So welcome, Christina.
Welcome. Thank you.
And please welcome with me Mr. Eric Sloan, the bar manager at Monarch Ocean Pub here in Del Mar. Yeah, a place that I love to go to, and a place that I have seen Eric perform some really cool things that are very unique. And I'm so thrilled to have him here. He'll talk more about what they do as a ritual at Monarch, and so we can elaborate on that. So, guys, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
It's late at night, so thank you for being out so late and having the stamina to hang out with me.
Rare, beautiful occasion.
Yeah. So you're visiting our neck of the woods here from New York.
Yeah.
How do you like it here?
Love it.
Yeah?
It was actually warm in New York, I will say that.
That's good.
No, I love coming here. I love an excuse to come to the West Coast because I usually go the other way more. So,
Yeah, right.
It's nice to be
Right.
here.
Yeah, no, we're local here. So we kind of, I started to like it here, by the way. It was in the beginning, like I was thinking that I'm paying rent because of the overcast May gray and June, whatever.
Gloom.
June gloom, yeah. Because, but now that I'm liking it here, I'm actually really loving the sunshine. And so it's really a special place here. So cool. Well, as you have been so cool to sponsor this episode, I really want to kind of start by talking about tequila a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I know that you're an expert. I know that Monarch is carrying a very solid, impressive line of tequilas. And Eric certainly knows good product when he tastes it. And I also think I know thing or two about tequila, and I think it is the hottest kind of spirit category, right? It is the fastest growing spirit category nationwide for sure, and there's a reason for it. Why do people go for tequila now? I remember when I started bartending in the 90s, you had Cuervo Gold, Sausa Gold, and that was that. And then Herradura came in, Chinaco came in, and slowly people started importing like 100% blue agave tequilas, right? Now it's incredible. We have so many brands out there. Celebrities are basically competing who's going to do the more outlandish thing with their brand, right? So I want to hear your thoughts, because maybe, Christina, you start. Tell me, what do you think? Where are we now?
Can I do a quick detour? As you mentioned all the brands, I was curious if you also grew up with Sierra with the plastic sombrero.
Yeah, that was that, yeah. Emilio Zapata, Montezuma.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. I always saw the Sierra in the supermarket growing up in Germany, and I actually never had it. I think I always knew better than to have it.
Right.
Sorry, but I actually had it for the first time last year at BCB. I was like, there was a booth, and I was like, I'm gonna go have some. And I had a good time. I had a really fun time.
Good.
Trying something I didn't know before. I think that's always beneficial.
I think that's amazing. Yeah, that's a thing that very few people kind of remind themselves that going into the unknown is always so rewarding.
Yeah.
Because even you can always take the negative perspective.
Exactly.
That's right. This thing sucked. No.
Yeah. Well, some of these.
Let's look at the good thing. Like I kind of did something new.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, like some of the things also like have paved the way for tequila into the U.S. or something, so you always got to see like the historic significance or something like that as well.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, tequila has been like having a really great time in the U.S. Like other markets are catching up as well. Like in Europe, it's still baby steps, but it is such a special spirit. Obviously, like the marketing trends and like all that stuff that doesn't come from the same place that, for example, people like me and you love agave spirits, and you assume as well. Like it's like I think there's like such a deep connection with the culture of Mexico. Of course, you have that with Scotch as well, but when you think of the agave plant, like people used it for like needles, for fibers, for like clothes and all that stuff for thousands of years. Like there's just it's such a special plant. It's such a special crop. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just extra special. There's somehow more of a connection with the culture than I feel like with a lot of spirits.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really special to me. So it's really nice to see those trends, obviously, as people are catching up, and like additive free brands now being more in the forefront of what's actually growing in the category. We're in like that kind of premium, additive free category, and like that part of the category is growing faster than anything else. So like that's actually amazing. That means that us talking about it for years now, the ingredients like agave yeast water, nothing else, like that is actually getting to people's ears.
Yeah.
So that's nice. No, it's really good to see. But yeah, you said you were focusing on agave.
Just with the whole, everybody walks in and they just want Patron or Casamigos, and I will, blatantly just say, so, do you want a good tequila? And then I'll take, just for instance, Lalo right now, is one of my favorite ones to talk about. But I'll take Casamigos and Lalo over to them, and just you do the tequila test. You put a little in your hand and rub it, and if it doesn't dissipate in 10 seconds and all you smell is alcohol and there's no residue, then you know that it's got more than 3 ingredients in it. Yeah. So I love doing that test in front of people. Yeah. Notoriously, just to show them this is 3 ingredients and this is
who knows?
Question mark.
Yeah.
Who knows how much? Yeah.
Question mark.
But also what I like about this, is like you get your guests engaged and they become now part of the story. Now they know something that, their friends might not know. And so now you have created, in a sense, a memorable experience, which is what bartenders do, right? Like something why people come back, right? I always try to remind fellow bartenders and lineage holders that people go to see the bartender, not the bar. That's what is kind of the foundation of our job and our industry, and I think this is like such a beautiful kind of ritual to kind of introduce people into the story, and like so that's pretty cool. So you mentioned when we were talking before that you want to go 100% pure and editor free.
Well, you have to keep, certain, but you got to keep Casamigos and you got to keep Don Julio 42, because those are the ones that, people are just going to call out, and, for the price point,
right,
it's good what you can charge for those. But yeah, we just went to, my entire row of tequilas on my back bar now are all 100% 3 ingredient additive free.
Yeah. And
I'm pretty proud of that. And so, the Alma de Jaguar, the Reserve de la Torre, which is one of my new favorite ones. Vulcan, which we're putting in our slushy margarita now. So that's going to be a banger.
Yeah.
So yeah, just Salento, Don Fulano, which we've had since day one, by the way. So thank you.
I was waiting for us in line.
Yeah. No, you made the cut. Don't worry. I've had that since day one, and
it's true.
It's a fantastic product, and it always has been, and it stands up against all those guys. And they're the younger families, like you said. Just everyone's coming out with additive free now, and one of these tequilas that I brought on, I can't think of the name right now, but it's the Camarena family. And so, 6, 7 generation family right there, dropping names. But they, I forgot what I was going with that, Camarena. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is it G4?
No. It's, I can't think of the name right now. But, the point is, they're putting at the top of the neck celebrity free.
That's funny.
Oh, I like that
I've
one.
heard that. Okay.
And so they're just because I'm guessing they're coming around. You can't put additive free on the bottle
No.
right now at all. I think because the bigger names are taking this huge hit. The Herradura, the Sauza, the
Yeah.
Patron are taking this massive hit because they're not additive free. And so now this one tequila that I brought on, until they outlaw it, he's going to keep celebrity free.
I think that's
on the top of it. And I
really,
thought that was very unique.
that's clever. Yeah.
And part of the story, and the fact that, celebrities, back in these horrible tequilas, and the only reason that they're selling is because their name is attached to it.
Right.
Instead of, the real experience of going down to these distilleries, 5, 6, 7 generations of agave farmers and that kind of thing, and really learning what this spirit is about and the history behind it.
Right.
Like you said, the agave plant in Mexico is like tobacco to American.
Right.
It's the story, their generational story.
Yeah, it's the mother plant.
Where it came from.
It's the mother plant.
It's their mother plant. Yeah.
And it's no surprise that they had a deity, attached to the plant itself, right? Because it's not just the blue agave we make tequila; it's all the agaves, right? Because they were nutritional. They,
So nutritional.
as you mentioned, they had all kinds of uses. Like if they're dry, you can use them as fuel, because they have a lot of organic compounds, and so it was certainly something that they revered, and it translated into the producers that really take. I hesitate to say pride in what they do, but really take integrity and keep that integrity going, like it's important to them, and what I think a lot of venture capitalists and our like kind of clever entrepreneurs thought is, I can launch a tequila brand and, I can go there because I see the market's moving in that direction, right? And like I'll make a lot of money.
Yeah, you just see the profit.
And I kind of want to touch upon that because it seems to me that every time I go into a bar or I go to Total Wine that has a pretty solid tequila selection, right? I see brands I've never heard before. I'm seeing like really weird kind of labels. Like people are trying every which way to get attention. So, it's in what I'm thinking is market's not that big for so many tequilas. Because the big players are not going to give up their market share. They're going to fight tooth and nail, right?
Yeah.
So what's left is like for traditional producers, they have their share of the market. And then this new kind of batch, and especially the Cristalino thing, I can't really understand why you would make a product like that, except that you want to go for a market that believes that, the price is the only determining factor of the quality, and how big is that market, and especially now, So what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think in general, like everybody, we're not here to shame people, like producers who use additives, right? We're not here to shame people who don't know any better than to ask for something that is full of additives or that is a celebrity tequila. In the end, I think nobody needs to know maybe what we know or think to know or understand, right? I think it's always important to keep that in mind. Also, like when I tell people about, sometimes I talk to people who are like, oh God, I talked to this group of people that didn't even know that tequila was made from agave. It's like, so what? Then you tell them, and like you're the first to introduce them to the topic. Like, how great is that?
Yeah.
I was just in Edinburgh and I got to talk to people about tequila for the first time. They'd never heard anybody talk about tequila. I'm like, that's great. That's an amazing opportunity for me.
Absolutely.
And also I'm glad that I get to introduce them to something that's actually delicious and great, as opposed to maybe like their first sip of tequila being something that's maybe not, made for quality,
I love how you're dancing around the political correctness.
No, but I do believe in that.
This is a bar. If you want to say something, you can say it. It's okay. This is a bar.
No, I am, but I do believe in that because it bothers me also when bartenders are arrogant towards people about their choices or whatever. Like, so what? Like, this is what they know.
The
this
younglings.
is what they want. Yeah, the younglings.
The younglings. Yeah. It takes a lot to become a full-grown bartender. No,
exactly.
I
I just think as a bar, but we also owe that, I think, as the expert in service to, to give them the full spectrum of, sure, you can have Casamigos and pay $17, or I got this unbelievable Reposado that just, they just started 6 months ago.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, I'm going to pour myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's for us, like especially you're always in front of people, right? More so than me. But that's why we need you guys as a brand. We need you guys. But I think that's a great opportunity to say like, hey, you should try this. This is more authentic. This is actually here. You can, because agave spirits are so terroir driven. Like here you can taste the soil. You can taste what goes into it. You can taste the influence from the water. Like that's an amazing opportunity to say like, hey, you should try this because I believe in this, as opposed to talking negatively about something else.
It's like having bagels and pizza in New York. Because of the water.
Exactly. Exactly.
Good point. Good point.
And people will actually try to, say that they ship the water, and I'm sorry, but a gallon of water weighs 8.56 pounds, and you're gonna, like you're paying per weight to ship water.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that water may cost $1.50 over there, but it's gonna cost you $45 to send it to California.
Or you go and drive it yourself. You smuggle it. So today's episode is sponsored by Don Fulano Tequila, amazing tequila from the valley and around the town of Tequila, from the, as people call lowlands, but I prefer to call it the valley. So the cocktail I made for Christina and Eric, it's called Mi Tierra, or My Land, and it's one of my original cocktails. So let's learn how to make that one. You'll start with a nice frozen glass, and I have here like some black clove salt that I crushed and put into this clamp tea strainer. So we're going to actually use that as one of our garnishes right here. Then a large ice cube, cured. Cured means that it's sitting outside a little bit so it doesn't crack the first moment when you put the cocktail over it. So let's start making this drink. Alright, so we're going to use Don Fulano Blanco. This is a split base cocktail, which I love a lot. So it takes 1.5 ounces of Don Fulano Blanco. Alright, and then 1 ounce of baseline mezcal. I like to use Vida. Vida is a very, very versatile, really well designed mezcal for mixing. 1 ounce of fresh lime juice. Yeah. 3/4 ounce of homemade Hibiscus Cordial. Right here. And Serrano Cocktail Bitters. So these are very potent. This brand that I use is very potent. So I'm going to use only 3 drops of these cocktail bitters. Fill up with ice and give it a proper shake. Alright, finally you strain this over this beautiful large cube over ice. It is kind of a double base margarita, but it's kind of not as well. So please enjoy and let me know in the comments what you think of this drink. Stay legendary.
But I mean, to your original question or like statement on like so many brands coming out all the time. Like I think last year, Tequila Matchmaker said like something like 380 something brands came out just of last year, and that's not distilleries, that's brands, right? And I'm sure a lot of them are not going to survive. Maybe most of them. But yeah, there's like something really weird about. We mentioned earlier about like how people just think they can. Agave spirit seems so accessible. It's like you think you can just get into it, like make a brand, like invest, all that stuff, and be successful with it, make profit and all that stuff, which is kind of like mind-boggling to me because you don't feel that way about like other spirits, right? But with agave, for some reason, people just think like, oh yeah, I guess maybe because George Clooney like showed us how it's done, right? But
yeah, maybe, I don't know. I think there's a point there for sure. You know, people have this attraction that they think oh, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon and I'm going to make something that my friends like to drink. Like if, we can make this. Somebody tells them a story. Oh, I know somebody who, knows someone at a distillery. You want to go visit and see if, that. And so they go and, the Mexicans, God bless them, like they're gonna like skin you alive, like when you come like that, and they should. And I really think that's great. They should, because you come there with not respecting what they're doing. You're coming with the idea what they should be making for you, like tailoring it into something that you think it's going to go on the market. Now, I'm not going to, I launched my own tequila years ago with my partners, and I know how difficult that is to actually do it consistently right, especially if you're a small brand. So, it's not just your distributor, which is a most overlooked, I think, element in the whole story. Because if they're not behind you, you got to do it yourself, and that costs money. And, so it's a lot of stuff there. So, but again, like I think more education really on the part of bartenders would help a great deal. That consumers now, like I had an experience like recently at Total Wine where this middle-aged lady, neighborhood lady here, was looking for additive-free tequilas.
Awesome.
And she picked up, I don't know what I think she picked up Ocho. And then I recommended Tapatio as well, because she was looking for something, of that. I'm like, well, this is kind of the daddy, and but she was insistent that it has to be additive free. So if she knows about it, that's already kind of telling me that there might be more people who are kind of getting onto this story of quality now, and this is going to be now either a great thing for the industry, or it's going to balance things out a little more, or the big guys, they have the financial muscle to lobby the CRT to do basically whatever they want,
Right.
And that's always has to be remembered, no? Yeah.
I mean, it's also not just it's not just about additive free, right? When we're looking at like a well-made spirit, it goes beyond that, but it's obviously a first step. One of the dangers that I find when we talk about all those people trying to invest into their own, Mexican spirits, even though they have no relationship with the land, with the plant itself and all that, I think more the danger is kind of exploiting the land, people getting into the agave business because it's lucrative, and just renting land and planting a bunch of agave, and then planting, and then returning the field eventually when it's depleted of all its nutrients, all that stuff. That's a kind of a dark side. Side. That's a less fortunate side of things that worries me more, because in the end, I don't care if there's another brand out there.
Yeah.
But it's we got to take care of the land and so on, and you do that if it's your land and if you have a relationship with it.
Right.
But if you just go and invest, you don't have knowledge of what to do to keep it healthy, and you probably don't care very much. So.
There's a reason why corn and agave are always planted together or next to each other, and then rotated, because corn puts the nitrogen back into the soil.
Yeah.
And ancient people there, the natives, they knew that.
There's science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they recycled it like that. But that's really kind of heady stuff. Like you mentioned Lalo. You know what I like about Lalo? They only make Blanco.
Yes.
Which means if you can't make a decent Blanco, then you can put it in oak and make something that's, and then the more oak you put in it, the kind of better it tastes in a sense. Yeah. And then, you go to the United States market and tell people here, look, it's aged at the legal maximum, or oak doesn't mean quality in tequila. Actually, I love how long is your Repro aged?
So ours are always aged long, kind of like the upper end of the category. However, we don't use barrels that are like heavily charred or anything like that. We use barrels as often as possible. So at some point, like they're going to be actually pretty neutral.
Right.
So for us, it's actually all about oxidation, like all those processes that are happening when you rest something.
Right.
We also rest things like the Blanco is also rested in stainless steel.
Of course, it
you
has
have a
to
look,
be properly,
Yeah, exactly. And like for a long time. So we're not resting it for longer because we want more extraction from the wood. We're resting it for longer because we know that the resting is important.
Of course.
And
That's one of the technologies that the additive loaded brands use. They shoot oxygen to accelerate that part, like through the tank, for various times. But what it does, the molecules are moving so radically fast. So after distillation, so now you are arresting them artificially, and they don't give the signature of agave, actually. So that's why the additives come in too. Right.
Mask that.
Yeah. But it's, you got to turn and burn, man.
With sales driven.
Yeah, it's sales driven.
So you got to keep up with demand.
Yeah. So Monarch, you haven't been, but if you have a chance, you got to go visit.
Yes, I do.
It's really one of my favorite places here. And they have an amazing view, right? They are blessed with hell of a view, right? That you can see the Pacific, and if it's like, clear out there, you see all the way out, and it's beautiful. And the decor is really cool. It's like, kind of a surfer kind of,
You know what? As you're talking about the view, I have a picture. I think I have been there like 2 years ago or something.
Yeah,
and I think actually with Don Fulano.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so what Eric does there, and he's not just a bard. I think he's a poet. He says he's not, and that's cool. I never had a poet be my guest, so thank you.
Yeah.
So can you explain what you guys are doing there? That is so cool. Like every time the sun sets.
Yeah. So every day at sunset we do a toast. I always my spiel is that we're all happy, healthy, alive, and together. And we got the best view in town. So we celebrate that every single night.
Yeah.
I write a poem. Well, the rule is whoever does the toast, you have to write the poem.
Right.
Okay. So it's very, it's not a hard thing to do, but, it's very A-B, Dr. Seuss, bomb on pop, red fish, blue fish. So it's very simple as far as the algorithm or the formula
the way you put it together.
That I put it together, yeah.
Right.
And so when we were doing orientation, when we opened, there's another bar in OB called Wonderland, and it's a big, center bar with big windows, but it's right on the water. So you don't get that elevation that we have. We're just talking about that elevation, which I think is our key. It's one thing to see the ocean with palm trees in front of you, it's just, I always say it's like we're at the top of a cruise ship. Like that's what we're looking at, it's a phenomenal view. So in Wonderland, they do this sunset toast every night, and that's our sister bar. So we're in a family called Social Syndicate. It's 11 bars, but that's one of the bars. And so they do this thing where just the way I explained it is someone rings a bell and everybody be quiet and they're like, hey, it's sunset, so we're going to do a toast. And they would, as a bartender, they would make shots just for the people at the bar. But it's like whatever they were trying to get rid of that, all this Stoli vanilla they couldn't sell that week. Dragonberry, Smirnoff or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. So that's a whole other story right now, bro.
Please. That's what we do.
Vanilla goes from category to category.
So Wonderland, they hand out free shots at the bar and they do this, hey, cheers at sunset, because it's OB. And so when we were doing orientation, when we were opening, my boss, day 2, my boss goes, hey, we want to do this sunset toast every night. It's going to be, epic. And I had, before I joined the Navy, I had 1 year of theater in college.
All right.
And my senior year, I did a lot of acting, and I was natural,
I'm shocked.
Give me a
You don't say.
give me a stage and I'll take care of the rest.
I can tell.
I can tell
Because he gets up on the bar. So they ring the bell, And then Eric gets up in the bar, and all the attention's on him, and he really,
If you took
works it.
if you took my blood pressure, like my heart rate, it would be in like the 70s. That's my calm space.
That's my heart rate is higher than that on a natural.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like when I'm on, like that's my pitcher mound. It's Yankee Stadium. I'm the
Great.
goalie, bro. Like it's all eyes are on me, and I love it. But I'm in the zone. And so, like I said, Dave, he said he wanted to do the Sunset Toast, so I had background in theater, and I just said, let me do it. And so that day in orientation, I wrote, they were talking about something, I don't know, but I wrote the first toast and I stuck it in my orientation folder. And it sat there for 3 months. That one, a portion of it, that one I came in, but it was very, it was 8 lines long. It was very short. We didn't do the ending, like it was just the first poem that I was sitting there writing. And I was like, this is going to be the very first poem. And, we kind of set the tone from there.
And it said, and waited.
Yeah. And for 3 months, it sat in that folder because it was COVID. So it was 2020, dude, and they were supposed to open March 2020. Literally the week COVID started, they were supposed to start interviewing people. So they got put on a hiatus, like we all did. And so I think it was July when we were finally able to go interview. And I was, bartending at Jimio's. I've been there for 13 years. We made 99% of our sales from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. and all bars had to close at 9 p.m. back then. And I had 2 girls to feed, and I made this much, and then I made this much, and those 2 numbers were too far apart. So they were saying that they were hiring up there. So I hadn't written a resume in 13 years, and my wife helped me. Thank God, could always marry someone smarter than you guys. Let me tell you that.
I can attest to that.
So I put, what I could on a resume builder on, because whatever online bullshit I found, and she changed it all, thank God. But the first line she put on there was, I've been at Jimio's for 13 years. So I'm interviewing the next day. I put on a nice shirt. You're welcome. I had a beard down to here and hair longer than yours. I look like Jesus. But I went up there and sat down, and we had to wear masks and shit, and all the windows were open. I walked into that place. It had been 5 restaurants in my 14 year, my 13 years in this town. It had been 5 different restaurants. And I walked in and I saw that view, and I mean, it like kicked me in the stomach. I'm like, this place is going to kill it.
Yeah.
Kill it. So I sat down, and the guy goes, says you worked at Jimio's for 13 years. What's that? And so I just pointed out the window, and I was like,
that place.
It's right there.
Yeah.
And he goes, geez, do you still work there? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, are you going to quit? And again, dude, I was 35. I had been there 13 years, so I'd been there a third of my life.
Right.
I had both my daughters there. I got married there. It was the last place my mom saw me before she died. It was the last place my grandma saw me before she died.
Sure.
I had 2 coworkers that killed themselves. I had 3 or 4 regulars that died. I was the last person to see them. So it had a lot of emotion and memory for me. And when he said that, he was the first person to ever say that out loud. I'm in the middle of a job interview, and my lip starts quivering, and I almost started crying. Like right there in the middle of an interview. But I'm just like, you've learned, obviously, through knowing me now, like I'm a very emotional person, and I don't hide that very well. But he was just like, are you okay? And he's from New York. He was from Rochester, like hardcore New Yorker. And I'm just a hillbilly from Texas, And he goes, you all right? I'm like, yeah, dude, you're the first person to say it. And, like I've been there a third of my life, and this town means a lot to me, and that place means a lot to me.
Right.
So it's going to be hard for me to leave that, but yeah, I'll do both. So all that added up, we, started doing the Sunset Toast every night. And so obviously we've all seen Cocktail because we're bartenders. So, I kind of took that, but I didn't want it to be about drinking. I didn't want it to be about shots. I didn't want it to be about alcohol. I wanted it to be about us being together, us being alive, happy, and healthy, and we got this kick-ass fucking view, bro. Yeah. And like we got
today.
We have to celebrate
we have
that.
This right now.
And there's a thing about doing toast at sunset anyway that we all love.
Yeah.
Regardless, weddings and funerals, birthdays. But there's just something about watching the sun go down and, you know, being the end of the day. And then we're all bartenders, so we're night people. So that's when we wake the fuck up, is when that sun goes down.
Well, that's true, though. It's true.
And so, like, that's just who I am as a person. You know, call it what you will, but I take everybody else's pain and love and emotion.
I think it's a prerequisite to be a good bartender. Is
Yes,
to have that emotional intelligence, intuitive intelligence. This is the hardest thing to learn as a bartender, I think. As long as you take things personally, you're not there.
Yeah.
You're not there. You're just not, and it's difficult to teach this aspect of longevity, actually. Because you've got to lead by example in a sense. And on the other side, it takes a lot of inner work, and not everybody is ready to put that effort in, especially when you are, looking at your job not as something you wanted to do.
Yeah.
If it's like, I'm very much like you, I love being behind the bar because I used to be in rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
So for me,
it's the stage.
It's like I'm natural behind the stage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I sometimes say stupid stuff, or, I make a mistake playing, but
show must go on.
It show goes on, and you're in the zone. It gets me into the zone, right? But to do that, really to work on that, it takes, from my experience, it takes courage to work on yourself and see where do you personally, like, what's your obstacles, right? And as a bartender, especially like these days, I think that after COVID, teaching bartenders really what it is to connect with human beings and why people come. Actually, they're not coming because they're thirsty or hungry. Nobody's, they're coming because they need that social kind of connection and a safe space. And I think it's a concept that people don't really understand much.
Well, you said
they all say they do, but it's hard to really get there.
You said it earlier that you go to the bartender, you don't go to the bar, and I think that someone told me somewhere, I heard it somewhere, but it was the 16th or 17th year into my being in the service industry. So I've been doing it 22 years, so it was like 4 or 5 years ago that I heard this. Was that the difference between service and hospitality? So service is what we give, right? Like we give service. But hospitality is when you treat someone as if they were in your home.
That's right.
That's the difference.
Hospitality is something that happens.
That's the difference. They forget that they're sitting at a bar. Like they think that they're sitting on your couch and we're just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And you just got this badass dude that's just on the other side of this, bar. And that's 13 years of Jimmy's, guys. They'll tell you, like, it smelled like piss and shit.
No, but Jimmy's, like,
and
just for people who are not familiar, Jimmy's is a dive bar.
It's the dive bar of Del Mar, though. You know, it's like being the dive bar of the Hamptons.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
The East Side. It's like the Upper East Side.
Sleepy, dusty town.
And nothing else happened after 9 except the Jimmy's. For the last 25 years, and I made it a fact that first names. You call a customer by their first name when they walk through that door, you got a customer for life.
That's right. And you greet them when they walk in. Somebody says, "Hey, welcome."
And then the whole bar turns, and they know that guy's Eddie.
Yeah.
Or they know that guy's Christina, or that guy's or the girl's Noel, or Peter, or any of them. Now the whole bar knows that because the bartender shouted that out, and you can't feel that in. It's the Norm effect. Hey, Norm.
That's a skill, like in big markets like New York, and I'm sure because that's your ground, right? That's where you work, and you have to go to all these new bars that are on the top 50 list and stuff like that, right?
What a terrible job.
They don't do this, right? In my experience, they don't do stuff like that. It's hard to get it because the attention's not on that. They're not building their business like that.
Nope.
They're building their business through, marketing, creativity, Instagram, all that stuff, the attention they're getting. But from what I know, and I've been in this industry for 30 years, my bar is open for 20 in New York City. And I think there is a point in you when the A crowd leaves, B crowd comes to give you a chance to be, their favorite place, their, world-class neighborhood joint in a sense, right? And it's up to you, because if you don't satisfy the B crowd, you are out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Tell me.
You just made me think of one of my all-time favorite bars that unfortunately is no longer Pegu Club. They always did a really great job at, like, when a bartender who knew you left.
Yeah.
Whoever was new was they knew when you walked in. They treated you exactly that same way.
Audrey is a dear friend, and she comes from a same lineage and line of thought that I come from.
Mm-hmm.
Dale was our teacher. She spent more time with him directly, but, we were influenced by Dale, who brought, again, the quote, people go to see the bartender, not the bar, comes from Dale.
Mm.
And I think this is a very old school and proper way of longevity in the business, because, restaurants fail at an alarming rate. The labor cost is insanely high. I don't even know how to put a business plan together now for California. I really just, that's profit margin attractive to any kind of sane investor. So, yeah.
No, but there are great. I mean, Death and Co is another one where, like, every time somebody left, like, there is that, like, cycle of people leaving, people coming, but they manage to keep up the same hospitable vibes, and they probably know you even if you don't know them yet. And I do appreciate that very much. And I am lucky to go to a lot of, like, the 50 best bars and so on. We have so many of them in New York.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, they're incredibly hospitable and wonderful. And we've talked about this.
Totally.
Like, sometimes people ask me, like, what do you miss being a bartender? I'm like, I don't, because everything that I really, really cared about as a bartender, or, like, what attracted me to the industry, right, to hospitality and bars themselves and all that, I can still find that in my role now in a different shape and form. Like, I feel like when behind the bar, you're there to create somebody's experience. You're trying to make people happy who come to your place. You're trying to make people feel welcome. Mm-hmm. I try to bring that to the bar I go to. Yes, I'm a guest at your bar, but if it can absorb some of the stress, if it can make you feel good by being here, like, that's the service I can give to you now, and that's really important to me.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me happy in the end. That's what makes my job, special in a sense. And, like, while I love things like introducing people to a new topic, education, all that stuff, but this is a major part of it for me. And I will say a lot of the 50 best bars and so on, they do have that sense of hospitality, but also I know people also know me when I come in, so I have a special experience. I'm in a unique place.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I know that maybe some of the time,
because you bring bottles of Don Fulano.
Yeah.
Merch.
Because I'm a friend, I'm an industry person, right? So it's different. You get treated differently at times, not everywhere, but for a while I was worried about, like, that sense of hospitality kind of dying off a little bit, but I do find that in a lot of places. So so it is out there.
Good. It's good that it's being rebuilt then in a sense, because after COVID I saw, even in my bars and restaurants, there was a kind of a generational shift.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you had to give responsibilities to people who might have not been ready necessarily. But then again, who's ever ready? Like, you let them have the chance, and if it works out, great. If you course correct, you advise, you sit there, you listen. Sometimes you want to say something that's obvious to you, but you keep your mouth shut because they need to make their own experiences, right? But I think it's great that it's coming back. I think this is a very healthy approach to what we do. Otherwise, it's you get lost in egomaniacs. And we're not superstars. We are servers. It's a privilege to be of service.
Yes,
right. So, tell me about Monarch, like, for example, what you mentioned about education, right? Not just the consumers, but also bartenders, because bartenders are important to, kind of give that, like, translate that knowledge, or like, how do you say that? What's the English term? Doesn't matter. Or like, just tell them like what they learned.
To educate.
Yeah, to educate. You guys with Fortaleza and Arete, you guys have this, is it biannual, like, trips?
The industry trips 3 times a year.
3 times. All right.
Yeah.
So, for example, like, what does a bar have to do to get on that list? Like, can you maybe elaborate about that and talk about what it is?
Yeah. I mean, so I have certain accounts that I focus on, and a lot of those are the craft cocktail bars and the places that focus on agave spirits and so on. So usually those are the ones where I look for like places that have been supportive, honestly. Like when I started at the beginning of the pandemic. I started that time where you probably went to that interview. So they were like, well, we're going to hire somebody. I guess let's hire somebody anyway. So what a time to start. I remember actually Macau was one of the first places that brought in product, and I was extremely grateful. Yeah. It was a tough time because, of course I'm on a salary, but I was just hired for a job that I had been looking for years. I've been looking for that connection with people in a brand and the right people to work with, right? And the right, brand in this case. And I have a job that I really care about now. It's like nobody can buy anything. And I just came from that place. I was just working in bars. I know what it's like. And, the best bars on the planet were buying the cheapest stuff just to survive because that's what you had to do. So I can't do anything. So I actually like the way that's influenced me. Like I think because of that, especially like every bottle I see on a back bar somewhere, I'm so grateful for it because I remember the days when that just didn't, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But that couldn't happen, But anyway, where was I going at before? I talked myself into a forest. The trips.
The trips. We're talking about the trips.
So those people who appreciate us and they supported us from the beginning and still throughout the years, like obviously they get first dibs. So I usually reach out to the bar owner and say like, hey, can you spare somebody, first of all? And is there somebody in particular you'd like for me to approach, right? Outside of that bar universe that I look at, like if there's somebody who's just been super supportive and who cares, who cares about what kind of agave brands they carry, who cares about Don Fulano, then, you're on that list that we reach out to. So,
right. Okay. So can you talk about what those trips are?
Yeah.
Give us like the itinerary. Like what happens to you in Mexico?
Glory. With our friends from Fortaleza and Arete, as Dushan said. And those trips have been going on for a long, long time, like before my days. And essentially it's a fun trip, and it's sometimes it's somebody's excuse to get their first passport, which makes me happy. Or their first trip to Mexico, which makes me happy. But essentially you come to Mexico, we host you for like 2.5, 3 days, and you get to know like a little bit like the town of Guadalajara, Tlaquepaque, Tequila itself. But my favorite day of that trip is when you go to all 3 distilleries. So you get to see 3 owners or like people who are, working for the brand who tell you about what we do, who tell you about the background in the industry. Like, we all we're all in the same place. We're all in Tequila Town, foot walk from each other. But we have different backgrounds.
Like literally, like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like bourbon. It's like bourbon roast.
Yeah, we're all deeply rooted in the industry, but in different ways. Like our family started growing agave almost 150 years ago. The Salza family's history is completely different. The Orendines with Arete, like that, they're super deeply rooted in the industry in different ways. So like to hear people talk about what they do and what they're passionate about in 3 different ways and see 3 different distilleries in one trip, I think that's super special and unique. And then of course, like you get to bond with people from all over the US. We have some people come from different parts of the world. So it's a really special trip.
And it's Don Fulano, Fortaleza, and Arete. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
It's wonderful. And then,
with my luck, like pretty much every time I'm in Jalisco, there's a trip that I just walk in, at Fortaleza, because they throw this big party.
How long has Fortaleza been?
2004.
That's it.
I want to say or something. Yeah, early 2000s.
100 years old.
No. Yeah, I mean,
with what
the distillery's old. It used to be for a very long time.
Yeah, Guillermo resurrected it essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the first tequila? family?
Oh, it was the Sausas and
The Cuervos are the two
Yeah,
oldest
yeah.
ones, yeah.
And they go back to what?
The
1800s?
first, I mean, so tequila as a category, the way we know it was kind of like set itself apart from like that general like mezcal category
Yeah.
in the early 1800s. I forget what year the first like permission like to make like an agave spirit was. I think that was Cuervo in like late
Because like
1700s
Glenn
or
Levitt,
something like
right?
this.
So
Yeah.
Glenn Levitt was the first. I mean, they were already making booze,
Yeah.
but it was when the king
Right.
had it, and he thought it was so delicious, he outlawed prohibition or to that effect almost, just so that he could drink it.
Yeah, so there was, I mean, obviously like there were agave spirits distilled everywhere. They just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they didn't have their own rule books the way they have
Yeah.
them now and all that stuff. But yeah, there was like one, I forget the year, but there was one, and I think it was Cuervo, I think the first certificate to
Gotcha.
like,
Okay.
make tequila.
So Cuervo's probably
Yeah.
that's the oldest.
But like those two families, Salsa and Cuervo, like those were the oldest. Those are the oldest tequila making families, and they're right in the center of tequila town
And then
too.
Don Julio, what was he, the 50s or 60s? Because Lalo is his grandson.
That's right. No, they came.
And he's
they
like
came like these are
50 something.
Yeah, these are the people that did this a long time ago. You can find salsa bottles in the museum in Tequila Town.
Hell yeah.
They were made for exports as Mexican whiskey.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Before they even termed the word tequila?
That's right.
Wow.
Well, no, they called it tequila.
Okay.
They called it mezcal, or like
it was more international marketing that was a little schizophrenic for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it was more like when they decided to export it, and like how are we gonna sell it, because it also like that's how tequila really like started to cook above ground with steam as opposed to in earth and pits in the ground, because it was kind of like, well, we can't like we're selling these in the world market the way we know it now, but like originally that was just agave spirits.
Gotcha.
But like around the town of Tequila, like they started to like take that cook above ground with steam, and essentially decided to make a more refined style to be able to compete on the world market with things like cognac and the whiskeys of the world and such things. Just like have something more refined and that they're happy to show off with, as opposed to something that's cooked on the ground or in like the forest somewhere, like in the mountains somewhere. Like that was like
moonshine.
thinking. That was the thinking. So originally it was like termed Vino Mezcal de Tequila, so mezcal wine from the town of Tequila.
Gotcha.
So that's where the name
because I went to when I was 18, my grandmother took me on a drive through Mexico for my graduation. Yes.
Nice.
So we went to Nuevo Laredo, Guanajuato, San Miguel de Allende, Tequila. We went to Tequila, Mexico. Went to the Jose Cuervo factory, and I was just blown away by, first of all, like the difference. I mean, like it was the poorest town that we went to. Was Tequila, Mexico. I mean, we were in a 98 Suburban with 4-wheel drive, and it was lifted 6 inches, and there were some roads that we couldn't go down because it looked like a bomb went. I mean, it was a 9-foot crater in the middle of the road. And then like, Mowgli, I call them Mowgli children, but kids with no shoes and barely any clothes on running around. It was so sad.
That might have been me like running around with those shoes.
And then we get to the Jose Cuervo factory, and it's this huge wooden gate, right? And it was 100 pesos to get, it was $10 or something to get in. And they open the gate, and the first thing you see right there on the other side of the gate is this 1930s Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
That was probably worth fucking $2 million. They could have probably paved the entire city.
It's true.
But I got to see the steaming, like the agave plants in the steam room. We got to try 5 different kinds of their Reserva de Familia, which was this, I don't know how old it was, but it was $350 a bottle.
Yeah.
It's like 35,000 pesos or something.
So when you were at Cuervo, if you walked, when you're facing the distillery, if you walked a block and a half to the right, that'd be our distillery, like Tequileña. If you walked literally 3 minutes further, that way, you end up at Arete, and then another 5 minutes Fortaleza.
Had no idea. I'm just like, I was 18 and I was just, beside myself anyway.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like that big of a town.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it didn't
mean,
look like there were 4 distilleries there, 5 distilleries there. Like, at all.
there's plenty like outside.
There's
of Panama.
plenty, and then in the
Yeah.
neighboring like valleys and
That's what I'm saying. Is for like
Yeah.
Tequila, Mexico. I thought it was going to be like Guadalajara.
Yeah, because all the one-story
I
buildings.
just thought it was going to be just massive town on the side of a mountain, and it was just highly under,
Yeah.
it was a
underwhelmed.
village, a little
Yeah.
town.
That's what I'm saying.
township.
Tiny
Pueblo
little
Mágico.
village, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
it's quaint and cute, but I'm just like compared to Mazatlan and San Miguel de Allende and Guadalajara, like it was just
Yeah, it's
Guadalajara
crazy.
is like
holy shit, like, man.
massive.
Yeah, massive.
I made you a drink.
What is this, my friend?
It's called the Cabroni. So I used to make tequila, right? So our tequila brand was called Cabeza, right?
Yeah,
Sometime like I kind of wanted to see if I can make like a Negroni variation with tequila, and it's the vermouths would like kill everything, and until I discovered, I don't need to use Rosso, the red vermouth.
Yeah.
Like I can use Bianco, and this is the Cabroni. I think you're gonna love it. I made it with the Repo, by the way.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. I hope you like
Salud.
Campari.
Salud.
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 Italiano. Oh man.
Huh?
That's ready.
Cabeza Negroni, Cabroni.
Yeah, it's perfect. I'm always happy when I see one of those bottles.
Yeah.
Brings
Yeah,
back
we're
the old
putting a
days.
white Negroni on
Yeah.
It's my
next week.
favorite.
Yeah.
So we do the Hendrix Oasium and Bitter Bianca
Mm-hmm.
and Lillet Blanc.
Mhm.
So very simple.
Nice. Yeah.
Quite
Very,
Nicole.
very simple.
You like it?
That's delicious.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're too kind.
Well, 32
I think-
years. Hopefully you
think
know
I-
how to make a good drink.
Yeah, well, I made a few. Yeah. So, you guys, how hard was it, when you look back now, to get where you are at the point of your life? And, like, every day when you wake up, like, what gets you out of bed?
That's a loaded question.
Huh?
Oh, that's
And why should I care? Or any?
Well, my answer is 3 parts: Austin, Rowan, and Georgia Grace. Those are my 3 daughters.
Yeah.
And that's why I get out of bed every day.
That's a motivating factor. Like no.
And you asked like how I got here. It was a coin flip. And then one night we were drinking. I was telling my story. I was like, I got this aunt in California, and I got this chick in North Carolina, and I don't know what to do. And they're like, you never heard that song, Heads California or Heads North Carolina, Tails Carolina? I was like, no. And so we played the song. Thought it was funny, and I took a cocktail napkin and I wrote Heads North Carolina, Tails California, and I signed it, and I flipped a coin, and it was tails. So I still have the napkin and the coin. In
Cool.
the bag
I like
somewhere.
that. Yes, yeah.
And it's the reason that I moved out here.
You're
man.
emotional. I love it.
And that's the
Yeah.
reason I moved out here, dude.
I love it. Good story, man.
Was a coin flip. So, and then I met my wife in 2008. And if you want to live somewhere, you marry a woman from there. That's why my brother lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
I like his saying. Don't you? Like,
He's a
they're
poet.
good. Like you marry somebody smarter than you.
I gotta
You have a lot of thoughts on marriage.
Well,
it
my
seems.
my
Oh,
business
life
card, my business card says TCP Relations, and it's taking care of people
Hey.
because that's what I've been doing for
Yeah.
18 years. And it
So-
says like, go see Eric because he'll take care of you.
And that's why your place is always fun and comfortable to be in and packed.
Well, I think
Packed. Like, I'm telling you, like, packed.
Yeah. we did 3 back-to-back $9,000 hours yesterday. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem.
Yeah.
Being too busy. So it's really hard to give
Yeah.
the standard of service that you could at
sure.
Jimmy O's when it was when it was 12 bar stools.
Yeah. No, it's different.
And you're watching the World Cup, but it's like those same 12 people
Right.
do not move
Yeah. No.
for the next 8 hours.
They're camping. Yeah.
They're there.
Yeah.
That's actually sometimes when I run into issues with myself. This is like, these are issues I have within myself. When I host an event and it's too busy, which is wonderful, and everybody's like, oh my God, what a successful event. And I'm like, but I didn't get to talk to everybody the way I would have liked to.
Yep.
Mm.
And I know you can't. And I know I always do my best, and I hug people and I make them feel welcome and happy to be there. I hope. That's what I strive towards. But like, I know that I would have liked more time with everyone,
Mm.
So like, I think I think caring is like the single most important thing when the way you walk through life. Like, why do something if you don't care, right? Like, do it with passion, do it with
Honesty
with
and
heart.
integrity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also sometimes you need to like step back and just not overly, like throw yourself into something that you can't change, or that you know that I don't know that's gonna bother you because X, Y, and Z. Like I don't know. Like sometimes there's such a thing as caring too much. In a way, like when it gets in your way a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes sanity is good.
Yeah.
But
you got to check
but
yourself
yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I do it, I don't know, 3 times a week where I leave that bar in the middle of happy hour and I got to go take a walk.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to the outside deck and I look at I let the sun get on my face. I take 10 deep breaths.
Yeah.
I remember I love my job. I love my life.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I still smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
Because, I use people like, oh, it's so judgy. Bartenders should never judge.
No,
Because everybody has a hard time on this planet,
we're the last.
Everybody's addicted to something. I like nicotine.
We're the cheapest therapist out there, guys.
And so I go out to take a 5-minute break to kind of take Dushan time, in a sense. I actually don't like, I'm not a social smoker. I like to be left alone, actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't, but, I think this is really important because not just while you're working, I think in life generally, like you gotta can I recenter myself, rebalance myself? Everybody has different ways to go about it. I find that this works not the healthiest way to do it. Obviously, there's wiser and better ways, but that's mine.
Well, it's funny because the toast kind of does that every night.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting back to that, it lets the bartenders, they have, because it takes me about, anywhere from 60 seconds to 2 minutes to do the whole
That's right.
thing. But that's 2 minutes that they get to stand still. Nobody's yelling at them. Nobody's snapping at them. They don't have to they get to take that refresh for 2 minutes as well.
Right.
Like they love that shit. Just
Connect to the now.
That, just enough that they, thank God it's toast time.
Yeah.
Like I can take a breather for 2 minutes. Because that service, well, man, it's just, they don't stop.
Yeah.
And so when we were talking about it earlier, we all saw Cocktail, right? So I didn't, want to, and then,
yeah.
and then I'm just want to talk about just how I came up with the toast in generally, but, and then there was the movie Mr. Deeds, right? So one of the toasts went viral a couple of weeks ago, got like 180,000 views in one day.
Oh, cool.
But out of the 300 or 400 comments, maybe, a third of them were just like, oh, Mr. Deeds, you're Mr. Deeds, Mr. Deeds, just because that movie with Adam Sandler.
Right.
Because he wrote cheesy Hallmark cards, right? And then he recited them at that bar. And so I just essentially, I don't call it poetry. I think it's cheesy and it's humorous in drama. You would call it humorous interpretation.
Cool.
Or dramatic interpretation, if I take it that way, where because Mother's Day, anything to do with veterans or 4th of July, because I'm a veteran, so I take those toasts to another level.
Totally.
Like a couple of days ago, a 28-year Marine was retiring, so I did the whole toast to him.
Wow.
But he had 40 Marines there, and probably half of them, were crying or pretty fucking close to it.
Yeah.
Because when you serve in the military, there's this sense of devotion and passion.
I understand.
That you're willing to die for your country.
That's right.
Lincoln said it's the last full measure of devotion to die for your country. Yeah. And so those kind of like when a celebrity dies. So when Val Kilmer died, I did a Val Kilmer toast. Right. But anyway, so I took Cocktail, Mr. Deeds, and then the other guys. So the other guys was that Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg movie. Right. And so they're sitting in that bar talking, and Will Ferrell just goes, hold on, it's my turn. And he turns around, and he just starts singing that Irish. He's a great singer. But they sing that whole Irish shillelagh thing, just turns around. And then he turns around and just keeps going like nothing's going on. Just right back to this conversation. And I was just like, what if at the end of the toast, we all said the same thing together? So at the end of every toast, every single night, the whole bar says, cheers to me, cheers to you. Here's a toast to a hell of a view. And that's the ending of the poem every single night.
Coming from big markets and big cities, like I lived in New York for a very long time, lived some time in LA, and then moving here, I felt kind of like I was. A lot of places are on autopilot, and they're just like surviving because there's nothing else there, and they go there, and to see that somebody's like actually feeling it, worrying about other people, worrying about guests, putting themselves in their position, like embracing the community, doing it for the right reasons, within parameters locally here, having something that you remember the place by. I think it's for me it was like finally, because there's a lot of either cookie cutter kind of restaurant group kind of things, or there is things that have been here forever and people just go there, and on the standards of gastronomy, let's speak about that, it's not really, it won't blow your mind away, right? But that's why I really like to go there. Like I think it's a really great place because of that feeling. Every time I leave there, I have a smile on my face.
That's what I'm most proud of, is that at least when
I'm not joking.
At least when you leave, you feel better.
Yeah, if you can touch somebody, like, and like I count, like, if whether it's like a like a drop of tear, like a tear because you're touched, or because you're laughing.
Yeah,
both are amazing. Any way of like touching people and connecting with them too, which sounds like what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
I think that's amazing.
So like the psychology of it is that when you laugh at something, you break down your mental defense.
Yeah.
You open yourself to feeling all emotion. So that's why you hit them with something funny first, and they laugh, and like, oh, this guy's funny. And then you hit them with that emotional shit. They're like, what the?
And then you bring it together by saying something together.
And then you bring that shit together. Right? Yeah. And this beautiful, and then we all say the ending at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's just, and if you've never seen it, and the biggest, another thing I'm so proud of is like the regulars. They get so jacked when they bring someone that's never seen it before. And they're just, and I can see them coming up just like, wait till sunset. And these people are just like, what the fuck's going to happen at sunset? Like, what, bro? Like, what? And then it happens, and then the answer is always the same. They're like, all right, that was pretty damn cool, dude.
No, but that's so rare that like a place has that signature something, whether that's the chicken soup at 4 a.m. or whether that's that toast. Like there are a few places that have that, and also without it being gimmicky.
Yeah,
without it being.
Well, that's why the OB thing is like, that's gimmicky. To just hand out free shots for what you're ever trying to, trash can punch that week.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what it is, dude. Yeah. Just, a couple bottles of this, couple bottles of that, and some cranberry juice, man. And, like, that's what they're handing out. And I just said, 14 years working in this town, I was like, this is Delmar, man. Like, we're classy. So
yeah, I mean, Stoli vanilla. I don't know how much it'll fly here. I mean,
so back to that.
I was attracted to that sort of dragonberry.
Tell me about that story.
Now you can only get one case a week of Stoli vanilla because espresso martini. Because we're talking about tequila on the fucking rise, dude.
Because of the revenge.
Stoli cannot keep up. Stoli cannot keep up. With
this
the
is
espresso,
the funniest thing.
We are restricted to one case a week right now.
How about Absolute?
So now I'm buying Van Gogh, whatever I don't know.
Whatever vanilla flavor you can get.
Fucking vanilla flavor I can
get.
You can make it yourself, you know that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm going to buy some Nikolai, dude, and throw some vanilla sticks in that, some vanilla bean, right? That's all I'm going to do, right? Essentially, just put some vanilla bean and let it sit for a couple days.
If you, that's going to be too intense.
Too intense. Okay.
Too intense.
All right.
Right? You can make concentrate like that. And then, put it in, just mix it with regular.
Vodka, regular vodka.
Yeah. Or you can use vanilla extract, which is what they're doing.
That's what Stoli Vanilla is doing, right?
All of them are doing that. I mean, come on. It's like, it's made in New Jersey.
So
nothing against New Jersey, obviously. It's just
the armpit of America.
New Jersey is what gives us espresso martinis. Come on.
And the Jersey
Turnpike. I used to make
two great American things. All right.
I used to make rivers of that espresso martini, man. I thought it's dead and buried and like.
Dude, I can't.
And then it came back with a vengeance.
With a vengeance,
dude.
So we're using Stoli Vanilla, Luxardo Espresso, and Dropkick Espresso Concentrate.
Yeah.
So Stoli Vanilla, an Espresso Liqueur,
Yeah.
and then Espresso Concentrate.
Right.
But it's paying $18.50 a glass, dude.
I mean, I do love them with us with Reposado.
No, I love, yeah.
I just like my mind didn't go to vanilla vodka, which makes so much sense. But I love how you just blew both of our minds.
I mean,
One case a week, bro. Because Stoli can't keep up.
I worked at a bar at the beginning of my career called Pravda in New York, which was the vodka bar of all vodka bars in the 90s.
200 vodkas.
Yeah, plus they're all frozen, and there we made our home infusions, and
wow,
Stoli was big dog on the block back then, and Absolute was also coming up with all the flavors and stuff. I was there when,
Russian Standard.
Yeah, no, Russian came later. This is the 90s I'm talking about. You had a lot of imported vodkas. Most of them super good, actually, Yeah. And then, you had Belvedere came out. I remember Smirnoff had this black label that was still made in Russia at that time. Was amazing. Stoli had a black label called Stoli Gold with all the medals they won.
Ooh.
That was insanely good. That was really good vodka. We used to have it frozen, and then we would put it in a water bottle, because our owners would send secret shoppers. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when an owner is too lazy to spend time at their restaurant.
Yeah.
And then they hire a third company to come there and give them a, kind of look over like that.
And send them cheap notes.
You can guess my thoughts about lazy owners, Anyways, so they don't catch us, we would have our barbacks put it in a Evian bottle. We would so, because if bartenders want to drink, they're going to drink.
Yep.
Make sure that, you are open and honest with your bar team. Give them some leadway. Don't let your lawyers put you in a situation where they're going to distrust you.
I say you can't drink, but you can sample.
But
you got to sample.
If we have to have a conversation about you drinking at the bar while you're working, that's the second to last conversation we're going to have, because trust is yours to lose.
Correct.
You treat people the way you want to be treated, no?
Yep, golden rule.
Yeah, totally. So, you mentioned chicken soup, and I think it's, we're over last call.
Oh,
so
man.
How about some chicken soup for the end of the night?
Absolutely.
But before we get the chicken soup, you got to come up with a poem, please.
Oh yeah.
With something on the fly. Can I give you a pen and paper?
Well, I mean, yeah. That's because I normally take, like your cigarette breaks. I go and I go out to a table. I look at the ocean.
So let's do that. Let's do a cigarette table.
I put on
a cigarette table.
Well, I put on my Yo-Yo Ma.
Yeah.
And,
all right.
I don't look like a Yo-Yo Ma enthusiast, but I absolutely am.
We're going to have a smoke while you write this thing down. All right, guys. Well, before we do a shot, let's hand out some chicken soup. It's going to be after the shots, right? Because it's tradition here. At 4 a.m. we have to have chicken soup to rejuvenate and get home in a good place. And most importantly, for you guys to like me tomorrow. Because I learned that. How's the poem?
It's done.
Oh my God, we have an official poem here at 4 a.m. Chicken Soup. I can't believe it.
Me and Yo-Yo Ma.
Oh yeah, totally.
We wrote it together.
Okay.
All right, well.
So the parts we need to remember is cheers to me, cheers to you.
And here's a toast to a heck of a view. Yeah. Or hell of a view. We say hell of a view.
You are a great view.
Yep.
Oh, well, and you guys are a great view, so. All right. We have the repo, which is amazing.
Heck yeah. So here we sit in our friend's garage sipping good drinks. We're on his podcast to talk about the newest bar kinks. I'm very humbled that me and Christina could be your guest, and I thank you for filling our drink requests. When it comes to good times, I think that we found our home, because when it comes to how to bartend, Dushan is in the zone. And when it comes to great tequila, we talked about it on this show. It's the one and only Delicioso Don Fulano.
Wow.
So here's a toast to being alive, healthy, and together, because being with good friends with good tequila is what makes life a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Here, here.
All
So
right.
cheers to
Cheers
me,
to me,
cheers to
cheers to
you. Here's
Here's
a toast to a hell of a view.
All right. Salud.
So that's what I do.
Oh, how cool was this? This was really cool. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Well,
It's easy
you
to
so
write about things you love. So,
man,
Yeah.
this was really delicious.
and I love being with good people and good food and good drinks and
Yeah.
good times and
That's what it's
Wow.
about, right?
good life, guys.
Chicken soup. All right. Usually I would play Purple Rain at this time, but I can't because
The rights.
the rights.
You know, I don't get to chicken soup at 4 a.m. at EO anymore unless I come to your house now. It's my bedtime.
Oh, that's good.
Put in my dues.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And
yeah.
it does
Ooh.
pair very well with that rep.
Right?
Absolutely. Oh. Yeah.
You
Very
asked earlier,
earthy.
8 to 11 months French oak from a wine barrels, primarily.
French oak. Yeah.
Okay, French oak. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
No, I really love that because again, if you got like your Blanco is exceptional, and that's how like tequila is judged anyway.
Right.
You
We
So
can't go
process.
anywhere. Like as you said earlier, you can't go anywhere if you don't have the right raw material that will give you the right Blanco.
Yeah,
And
so
then,
you're using your oak just as an accentuating flavor, basically, just to kind of make it more deeper. And I love that style of aging is for me the best one. Like when you have too much oak, then I know you're like cutting corners, like hey,
Well, it's more about time than anything else with every part of the process, right? So yeah, it's about time and care.
Right.
It's not about the tools used. It's not about how much marketing money you have. It's about how much care you put into something. So yeah.
Well,
Lucky.
guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for watching and for being so supportive. Here's a toast to you as well. Please stay legendary and don't forget, like us, subscribe, and we'll be in touch. Ciao, guys. Thank you.
Peace be with you.
Salute, salute.